What's going on with this thing?
And then, Rabbit, you want to clap? Do our little clap, clap.
Sorry. There's our clap sync thing.
Yep.
All right, here we go for the intro in 3, 2, 1. Oh, shit. We've got one action-packed episode for you guys. My name is Ravi, and I'm joined by my two brothers, Christian and Arjuna. We're talking Star Trek, Lower Decks, and we brought in a very special guest, Mr. Julien Schwab, a lifelong Trekkie. We've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, like Sharks, Mulan, Spider-Man 3, Rush Hour 2, Jared Leto and Tron, etc., etc., etc. And that's all fine and dandy, but let's get into the new stuff first. Lower Decks, I have thoughts.
Wow. Okay.
I read that really, really fast.
No, you didn't.
Didn't really pause appropriately at
That
all.
wasn't bad. That was not bad. It wasn't your greatest reading of an intro ever, but it wasn't that bad.
It was well paced.
Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Julie, you're a writer, and you write intros all the time. Be honest, how was that intro from both a
It was pretty.
written perspective and a delivery perspective?
Well, I'll be honest, I was shocked just because I've been on your shows before. I've been on Was It Good? I don't recall you like writing out an intro and reading it all officially. So the first say 5 seconds of those 15 seconds, I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And then I realized, and I was like, oh, he's just plowing through. This is official. So you guys, it feels like you guys have really stepped it up a notch.
Wait. So Jules, we should let you know. I basically write the intro 5 minutes before, and Ravi does a cold reading. He never reads the intros beforehand. So every time we do the intro, Ravi's just reading it for the first time. He's gotten better. He used to be terrible at it.
Right.
So we're still.
I don't know why why you're not reading them, but okay.
It's just funny because then I can slip things in there, and he has to say them out loud. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So we try and create funny moments with it. Have fun.
It allows us to still be authentic, which is half-assing this.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's an important part of this.
Speaking of things that have been half-assed, Star Trek as of late.
What? What a transition.
Well, what I mean by
Well,
that.
I don't agree with. Oh, that's a hot take already.
Well, I mean, let's look at Star Trek, top down first, right? So Star Trek, a little guy named J.J. Abrams, I believe Julian, he's a favorite director of yours.
Yeah. Oh yes.
no, what?
Oh.
If we pull the tape on the Star Wars episode, I'm pretty sure you said, and this is a direct quote from Julien Schwab, I love JJ. If I ever have a second son, I'm going to name him JJ Abrams Schwab.
Yeah.
Don't remember that, but I believe you. I believe you.
But if we look at Star Trek in the last 20 years or so, we have the J.J. Abrams films, which were, for the most part, kind of these epic big blockbusters. They start a whole other universe, which, in Star Trek world, you can do that. But, they were the typical action-y movie. We had Paramount and CBS launch their new product, the CBS All Access Pass. And we had 2 series come out, the Star Trek Discovery series, which wrapped up season 2 a while back. Season 3 is coming out in October. And then
What?
Yeah, October. Season 3 of
Really?
Star Trek Discovery. Yes.
Wow.
Get with the times, Brian.
I know.
And then more recently, we have Star Trek Picard, a series that also wrapped up that made me want to gouge my eyeballs out. Just not the best thing ever. And then even that brings us to kind of like the present. Star Trek Lower Decks, an animated show. It comes from the minds of some of the writers from Rick and Morty.
Yep.
And it's an animated series that follows a crew, basically the B-listers who do.
It's like the
red shirts.
D-listers.
Are they red shirts? I mean, is that what you would call red shirts? Are those
They're
characters? red shirts?
D-listers. They're literally at the lower decks. They even have a visualization of the map of the
Yeah.
starship, and oh yeah, this is where all the bridge officers are and stuff, and we are all the way here at the butt.
the very bottom of the ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to see this. My initial take was going into it. The trailers and everything were fun. It was goofy, and I honestly thought it was going to be just kind of something kind of stupid and just kind of dumb. But somehow this first episode was amazing. It was a great combination of fun comedy, but then also tying into Star Trek world and making it kind of fit within what I know about Star Trek. So what I'm trying to say is Star Trek's back, guys.
Oh,
Be
wow.
more excited. Star Trek's back.
What is our resident Star Trek expert Julien Schwab think?
Well, a lot was just said there. I mean, first of all, to say 20 years, we've had it better in the last 10 years because 20 years also incorporates some of those awful Star Trek: The Next Generation movies. So
And Enterprise.
if you take
Name,
that into
name,
account,
name
JJ's
one bad Star Trek Next
Yeah.
Generation
Nemesis.
film. That was okay.
Insurrection. Good Lord, Insurrection. But so by that lens, I think JJ's World is an improvement. Yes, Picard was rash of the worst order. This I liked, but I think in a way I just kind of want to see where it goes. Like I thought it was funny, but not funny enough. I thought it was cartoony, but not cartoony enough. Like the feeling that I got the next morning when I woke up was like, oh shit, I watched a pretty good Star Trek episode last night. Like that felt like Star Trek. It felt like there was no bad guys. Everybody was working together. There was some comedy. There was some like sentiment. There was some excitement, some travel. So it felt like a regular Star Trek. I just wish it went a little farther. I wish it was grosser. I wish it was more adult. I wish it was funnier. It just felt a little bit too much like Star Trek, which I guess is a compliment and a critique as well. Maybe.
Julien, a quick question. Did you
Yeah.
watch the original, like the animated TOS?
Long ago.
In the galaxy
I mean,
far away.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but yeah, but not in the last 20 to 30 years.
Because I know a lot of people have obviously been talking about this and like obviously been comparing it to that. That was the continuation of the original series. That was obviously the last animated Star Trek we had 50 years ago, right?
Didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, that
Wow.
was how they continued it for, what was it, like a season or
It was
2
about
seasons?
one season.
Yeah. So,
And then it got picked up. The fans did all their write-ins to get the movies going.
yeah.
So here's my question. I am coming at this as a non-Trekkie, right? I don't know much of the lore. I didn't watch any of the shows. I've only really seen the J.J. Abrams movies. And I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed this a lot because even though there were references to Star Trek, I didn't feel alienated. No pun intended. I didn't feel alienated from the series. The humor was enough that I was able to understand it. I know Star Trek like just enough. Does this feel, because this is a completely different medium, does this feel like it's part of the Star Trek universe, or does it feel separate?
It felt like it was part of the universe to me. Just because they do, it just feels like a different slice of that universe, if that makes sense, right? You know, I think Rabbi said it a few weeks ago, where it's like Star Trek had become this serious thing where it's like Vulcan is dead, you know, and like everything is serious and epic and battle and like, oh, you know, the JJ universe, right? Like everything had become like this cool, gritty world of Star Trek.
And that's
They Dark Knighted it.
And that there was an article, I think it was Slash Film, that put it out, that pointed out like the problems with the J.J. Abrams films and why they fucked up, which is because it was galaxy ending, you know, end of the world level type shit, and that's never what Star Trek's been about. Star Trek has always been about like these small little like moral type decisions, these cool little weird sci-fi things that make you go, whoa, the galaxy is a big place. And that's what I liked about Lower Decks is it's actually taking something pretty simple, which is it's not always the top tier, you know, commanders in charge running around and doing everything. An entire ship is composed of a whole group of people. I mean, maybe I'm looking way too deep into Star Trek with this. Maybe I'm not. But it's interesting that Star Trek is supposed to present a world in which everyone is equal. There's no money. Everyone does everything for the greater good. But there's still clearly like a class system, right?
Within the ship.
Within the ship. Like right off the beginning, there's the new doctor that enters, and the guy says, "Get move along, lower decker or whatever, or something like that." And that's a very clear kind of like, you know, not necessarily like a terrible derogatory term or whatever, but it's still pushing upon the idea of like a class system.
Yeah, it's condescending.
Which is interesting because like in Star Trek, we want the world and the universe and everything is supposed to be this good, something to look forward to type world, and clearly it's not. So I think that's interesting. And then also the other big thing that I think is fascinating with the show is who the family structure. The captain of the ship, related to is married to an admiral.
Yeah.
And then their daughter, who is just kind of in a mood, is now on the ship in the lower deck.
We don't know if
fashion.
they're married.
We don't know if they're married, but they had a kid together.
Yeah, they did have a kid together, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to when that is used in future episodes, right? Because they saved that for the reveal at the end of this first one, so you don't really get to see how that's going to actually play out. So I'm excited to see how that's going to work. But everything you said, I agree with. I think my big question is, why is this a cartoon? Because everything I like about it, like, except for like one or two small moments, I don't know why it was a cartoon. Even like that opening bit where she accidentally like slices his leg, you know, like she kind of just gives him like a little cut. Like, it's not even like, why didn't she cut his leg off? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't know. I'm just not sure why it's a cartoon. My favorite scene was when that big spider is like gumming him and throwing him around. To me, that's a cartoon. It's still Star Trek. And it's the only time I actually laughed out loud. I mean, I enjoyed the whole episode, but that was when that spider finishes suckling on him was the only time I like literally like chuckled by myself. So
I feel like
I guess I'm wondering, why is it a cartoon?
I feel like they're playing it safe to start, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think Star Trek, you know, Ravi, you obviously talked about the JJ stuff, and that effect was obviously felt on Discovery heavily, obviously Picard heavily, and now they're starting to get away from this JJ verse with the announcement of the obviously like the new Enterprise series with like Pike and Spock and everything. I think with this show, trying to go back to a lighthearted tone, kind of going back to the original tone. But I think what Paramount and CBS and what they're trying to do with Star Trek is really just kind of figure out, like, okay, where are people? Like, are we going to go all the way cartoon and just be, you know, have those gross out kind of animated moments? Or are we going to
I would hope
kind
they
of
go
play
there,
the middle?
right?
And, to be fair, they kind of, like, with the whole zombification, like in the first episode, the thing that turns them into these kind of like blood-suckling vampire whatever creatures. Like, they did play into that element, I think, in the first episode, which would look very probably corny in the Star Trek universe, or, wouldn't be that great in a live-action setting.
It's true. It was like a Borg attack gone berserk, right?
Yeah.
With like actual zombies, which is kind of cool. Although I didn't like the comedy of them trying to continue having that date during that.
You didn't like that?
Like, so in terms of the comedy, like, that's the comedy part, and I was just like, just shut up. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling that. Like, it was annoying me, to be honest. The comedy parts annoyed me more than the actual Star Trek parts.
So for me, like, parts like that work with it being a cartoon. Like, if it was live action and that interaction was happening, that would feel even to some degree cornier than the situation, like the whole like look and feel. I also wonder, and maybe once again this probably isn't the case, because I'm sure that this has been it's been in the works for a while, but does COVID play any role into this? Did they want to go with an animation type show because we are doing the whole social distancing thing, or was this always kind of slated to happen?
This has been announced years ago, so this had been the plan for a while, and I know it had kind of been in development hell for a little bit. So I was actually shocked that the show did get released, just because I feel like they have tried to do animated Star Treks, and they're doing another animated Star Trek show that's more of a kid show
on Nickelodeon.
No. On Nickelodeon, correct? And
God,
I don't know how that's gonna work out.
I'm
honestly.
worried for that show, because Star Trek fans, I feel, are like Star Wars fans. Like, remember when Star Wars Resistance came out or Star Wars Rebels came out? The Star Wars fan base got really mean and cruel and stupid and didn't realize, as Brett Rader would say, this is a children's story. Like, I'm hoping that Star Trek fans realize that, the Star Trek on Nickelodeon, that is for kids.
Right.
Like, you don't need to go and destroy it.
What I did appreciate about the show, though, was there's still deep cuts to Star Trek lore, right? I think, one of the articles I read was, and I didn't catch this because I haven't seen every single episode of every single Star Trek and memorized it.
What?
But I think
Get out.
In that ending bit when the female lead character is talking about like all the stuff that she knows, she mentions a character name, and it's from the second pilot of the original series, the ensign who gets the godlike powers, and then Kirk has to kills him by crushing a hill on him, but he doesn't leave it in the log, right? He just says I think he like passed away or something like that.
Yep.
So like there's references like that to like the original series, and people were like, "Wow, that's so cool!" And like I love that stuff, right? I love when you can kind of like have those deep cuts and deep references where the casual viewer can still brush it off as just like, "Oh, it's any old jargon," but it actually has meaning. So I appreciate that. I appreciate about the show because I think Star Trek has always created and had fun callbacks to its, obviously it's deep lore now. It's deep mythology where you have tons of TV shows, you have tons of movies, tie-in comics, books, novels, VR games, video games, board games, fan fiction.
Well, fan fiction doesn't do anything.
It's all canon.
Fan fiction is not canon, you psycho.
It's canon now.
Oh my god.
I also like that. I think it paid off in a few like hypothetical situations that I had thought about for Star Trek. Like, what if the food replicator breaks, and it's just popping out bananas, or the obvious implication that every crew member is having sex in the holodeck.
Yes.
Like we finally got to see them. Whenever she starts that program with all the naked dudes making out, it's just like finally confirmation that gross shit happened in the holodeck.
And they're human.
I was hopeful when I saw that.
Do you guys think that the show's going to lean into that as we kind of go into
because it's
the
animation.
It needs to lean into
I hope
it.
so. Yeah, it has to. Yeah.
Otherwise,
Agreed.
I think Jules is right. And I think that the other reason that I feel like this animated format works is that it moves very quickly. The pace to me seems a lot faster than any regular Star Trek episode that I've seen.
Well, I mean, the biggest difference is this is a half-hour show.
Yes.
Most Star Treks are 45-hour long shows. Like, Picard.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, obviously back when it was on, network television, it was the 44-minute formula.
Yeah.
And now, even with Discovery and Picard, some of those episodes would go longer than 44 minutes. They would go 50. Some would go an hour.
Yeah.
So there would be a lot to the episode.
Yeah.
So I think, animation always works best in the smaller,
fast-paced
type of.
I enjoy, and I think that's one of the reasons I think this is a show I can stick with.
Whoa. Christian's going to stick with a Star Trek show?
Because to me, it's more, it's like Star Trek meets Rick and Morty, and I hope they lean more into the Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah.
It's faster paced, and the characters were funny and it's kind of irreverent here and there, and there's like good situations. And I feel like it's not a perfect debut, but there's a lot of potential, I think.
It was also renewed already for a second season.
And a third.
A third season?
No, I made that.
No, I was like, wow.
Christian's decided.
So there are two. So there will be a second season. This first season is going to run for 10 episodes, and the second season will also run for 10 episodes.
Nice, and that's perfect. 10-episode run, I think, is a good, especially for an animation series. I think that's a good amount of time. One of the other things that I really enjoyed was the opening. Right, the opening
the
sequence.
ship like running away and stuff.
The ship running away, like it had like the classic like Star Trek music. And like the dialogue and everything, and then like all these situations of like, flying up to the Borg and be like, yeah, fuck this, like leaving, like that normal, like that, like what we would all want to do in like these really like bizarre and scary ass situations.
That actually leads me to my next question. Did you guys know? Because you guys are Star Trek fans, is the idea of a second contact ship new from this, or have you always known about these second contact ships? Because the idea is hilarious to me. Like,
I have never heard of it. I never heard of that.
Second contact. Like, to me, that's brilliant. It's like they're not only on the lower decks, they're on the lower decks of like a second-rate ship, right? That does second-rate jobs. Like they're gonna come in after the heavy guns.
I like it because it.
Yeah, they do all the paperwork.
Yeah,
I love there's the one bit where the guys didn't really know how to pronounce their names like on the planet.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, I like all of it.
I hope there's they pull in like administrative humor, like like situations from The Office, like they have to deal with corporate, and you can translate that idea to dealing with the first contact ship or something. I can't wait. There's a lot of potential. I thoroughly think I'm going to enjoy it.
Where are the timelines? Because obviously this is in the Prime universe.
Is it?
Yes, I know it's in the Prime, but I don't remember.
Wait, you do? How do you know that?
Because it said in like the premise was that it's Prime universe.
Oh.
But I don't remember where in the timeline it's listed.
Well, it's Next Generation, certainly after Next Generation, because they know Worf, they know.
Oh yeah.
It's listed in the year 2380. which I believe is right after the time that Voyager returns home.
Voyager.
Like, I think Voyager returns home in, like, 2378 or 2379.
I like the uniforms they got in this show. That's like a mix of Next Generation and the classic Star Trek movie ones with the flap that goes over the chest. They're kind of doing both. I like that.
Second contact ship, they can now also experiment with the uniforms.
Exactly. Anytime you have a new Star Trek series, new uniform.
Yeah, you gotta tweak it a little bit.
They're trying to follow the Star Wars like Stormtrooper formula, where it's like new anything, new Stormtrooper.
New Stormtrooper.
Yeah, because all that merch and that product, you know.
Okay, so for a timeline update, Star Trek Nemesis takes place in 2379. This takes place 1 year after Star Trek Nemesis.
So Data is dead.
Data is dead.
That's the
dead.
like the key takeaway. What characters are still alive? Data is dead. Janeway's an admiral, right?
Yep.
Janeway's
Yeah,
an
she
admiral.
would be.
Cisco obviously is no longer there.
Wait, Cisco's dead?
Yeah, he's in the Nexus, right? The Nexus.
He joined something.
Yeah, he joined the Nexus.
Did he join the Nexus?
Yeah, right. It's the Nexus. Am I confusing my?
I think. Well, that's where all three captains ended up in the Nexus, because that doesn't. seem possible.
No. You're right.
That's where
Kirk and
Picard
go. He goes with those weird aliens.
What's Nexus? Is that like Captain Heaven?
So it's like this in-between place that connects time and space.
Wait, there was a good Star Trek movie that I watched when we were really young.
Yeah, Star Trek Generations with Kirk and Picard.
Oh, that was so great. Is that
Yes.
Nexus?
That's the Nexus. That's
That is the Nexus.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Like
in-between.
You live like your afterlife there forever.
Yeah.
Cutting wood.
And then just for point of reference, Star Trek Picard Season 1 takes place in 2399, which is 19 years after Lower Decks.
Cool.
Because I guess they wanted to make Picard as old as fucking possible in that show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you want to see a 92-year-old man running around the
Oh
universe.
my
That's
God.
what everybody wants.
With like really interesting Botox.
Terrible Botox. They did a terrible
That
job.
show.
I was trying to be nice.
So before we answer that age-old question and let Julien get out of here, do we have any ideas where we think this is going? Do we think that this is going to have a cohesive story, or is it just going to be a bunch of idiots running around the galaxy?
I think that's good. The through line is going to be the family, but I feel like it's going to be one-offs with common that being the thread through.
Yeah.
Right.
My only fear for the show is that they promote them too quickly, right? So, like, obviously, each of these characters have aspirations to move higher. And I think the last thing you want to do is get to, like, a Season 3 or Season 4 of the show, and it's like, we have a captain and a chief medical officer, and, like,
And
it's
it becomes
not
a
really
regular.
it's not really Lower Deck. So I'm interested to see kind of, like, as they quote-unquote power up throughout the show, how they knock them back down again, you know.
That's my beef with the JJ movies, is all these promotions and demotions. Every single movie, everybody's promoted and demoted like 2 or 3 times. They get sick of it. That said, the Lower Decks, I think there is going to be, I think they're not going to be able to help themselves. There is going to be an arc. I just think that this Klingon they're setting up, I don't know if you noticed, but both the two main characters are on the bridge at comms and steering the ship, so they're at least promoted to like there. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some like overarching business in this show.
Yeah,
beyond just the family stuff.
Yeah, my biggest disappointment of the show was how much the bridge officers were featured, and you know they're all voiced by pretty big name actors, which makes me believe that they're going to be pretty prominent in the show. And really, like, I was just hoping, like, you know, they're kind of the background characters, you know, and the Lower Deck people are really the main characters. But you know, I guess all you can do is wait and see how it goes.
Are you familiar with that Next Generation episode? I believe it's called Lower Decks.
Where we actually follow.
Anybody know this episode?
No, I'm not familiar with that one, actually.
It's essentially this premise. It's not cartoonish, but it follows some ensigns for a whole episode, and the bridge crew are treated like they're treated in this episode, where, like, you know, they look up at them and they're kind of like almost the Peanuts parents, you know, like you don't even hear what they're saying, kind of, they're like in a distance. It's kind of interesting. It's not a very good episode, but I think it's called.
Well, actually, critics disagree with you. So I have it right here. It's the 167th episode of Next Generation, 15th episode of Season 7, and it's been widely considered one of the best episodes of the Next Generation and the entire Star Trek franchise. It's normally put in the top 10 best all-time Star Trek episodes. episodes.
And Julian's head is
time?
exploding.
What?
It's also
No.
considered to have one of the saddest moments in Star Trek history.
Don't ruin it, because I'm going to go watch it after this.
I was just reading what it says the internet says, what the internet has said about it.
I'm
Wow,
just reading what
interesting.
the
Well, what
internet has
internet said
about
that, by the way? What internet said that?
www.theinternet.com. Screen Rant said.
it. I mean, they're not always the best, but
No, they're not.
I think it's that time, because I know Julian got to run, and thank you again. But before we run out here, Julian, was Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 1 good?
Good's a strong word, but I'm not given any other word here on the show. So yeah, I'll say it was pretty good. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Jules, the name of the show is Was It Good?
Yeah, but you have to say it like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you want an asterisk? It's yeah.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Pretty good. All right. Nice. All right.
Julian, you got to go around now. You guys pick Arjuna and ask him the question.
Oh, I say, Arjuna, was Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 1 good?
I'm going to go yes. It was good. I did enjoy it a lot. I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited for the coming season.
You're excited for the future?
Yes.
Nerd.
I'm excited for this future, but I know 19 years after this show, I should not be excited because it's Picard. So if the show does, if it follows the formula of one season for a year, if we get to season 20 of Lower Decks and it catches up with the Picard timeline, I gotta drop the show at that point because it's just too dark. Krishna, was Lower Decks good?
Yes. As a non-Trekkie, I found it quite entertaining, and I am quite hopeful about its potential. Ravi, was Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 1 good?
I'm going to have to agree with everyone here and say yes, it was good.
Nice.
Boo.
Wow.
Just kidding.
You didn't want to be a contrarian this time?
No. I mean, you watched it with me. You saw how excited and happy I was watching that.
Yeah,
damn
you were
thing,
very
so
excited. Yeah.
I was very, very glad to actually watch something interesting for once in
in the Star Trek universe.
the Star Trek universe, unlike that fucking show Picard. Anyway, on that note, Julian, thank you for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Where can the people find you?
I don't know. I got nothing. But watch The Rush on Yahoo Sports. That's my big show.
Nice.
Do
Watch The
you have a
Rush.
little show?
No, I only dabble in the big ones. Oh,
There you
check out Yahoo Sports Fridge. We have one episode out there.
Yes.
With Oakland A's slugger Mark Canna. Check it out.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh, by the way, I liked real quick before you go. I like that episode of Fridge because he buys the same eggs that I get, and that makes me.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a foodie he is.
Yeah.
There's also he doesn't even make his own pasta sauce. We talked about it later, and I was like,
Oh,
"Are you a foodie?" Yeah. Wow, we're wrapping up this conversation the way we started with me being a snob about
Yeah,
food.
yeah. There's a common theme here, Jules.
Yeah. All right, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it and appreciate you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Have a
we'll
good
see
one.
you soon, man.
We'll have you on again for the finale.
Please do.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Finally.
Julian, everyone.
Just kidding.
Thanks again to Julian for jumping in there. So we still have a couple more topics to hit before we wrap this podcast.
We have like a ton of topics.
Yeah.
We also have this thing to give away. It's the
I'm
child
gonna need another hour to input the names.
eating
A frog.
the frog thing over here. Do you really need an hour?
Maybe 2.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, let's talk about Spider-Man 3 for some idiotic reason.
Yeah.
Yesterday, during our weekly hangout with our parents, because we are good kids, we decided to throw on Spider-Man 3, the greatest, worst
Spider-Man ever.
ever
No.
made.
Yeah.
And it was interesting watching that
Very
film after
interesting.
how many years?
13.
13 years.
Yeah. And you have to remember, this is the first time we're probably any of us are watching it since it came out, which means we've had 4 more Spider-Man since. No, wait, 5 more, including Spider-Verse.
Yes.
So at least 5
Spider-Man
films.
movies plus like numerous other Spider-Man appearances in other movies.
Oh yeah, Civil War,
Plenty of
Endgame.
more Spider-Man shows, Spider-Man video games. You know what I mean? There's been tons of iterations of Spider-Man since Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
It's just if you talk to anybody our age, right? There's been besides Batman, no more versions of Spider-Man. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how many versions you've gone of one character.
Yes.
And a fun fact, just so everyone's aware from our chat here, it is Peter Parker's birthday today.
No. Are you serious?
Yes.
Wait, we didn't plan this.
No, we didn't.
We planned it. We have the insight. We have the foresight here at Was It Good. If you want insider access like that, give us money.
Sheer dumb luck.
We have the sheer dumb luck gene.
So wait, he was born on August 10th? What a
Guess so.
lame month to be born in.
Yeah, who's born in August?
No one that we like or
Nope.
know or
Yeah,
care about.
Negative.
Ravi, your girlfriend was born in August.
Let's move it on. So, Spider-Man, is it so bad that it's good or so good that it's bad?
Well, the second one's definitely not true. All right, I think before we get to that question, what were you surprised at watching this that perhaps because it's a different style of filmmaking, right? There are longer shots. It's a 2.5-hour movie. There are 3 villains.
Terrible CGI.
Awful CGI, which was critically acclaimed at the time.
It was good. No, it was good CGI at the
For the time, right? But it's god awful now.
So
it's
my
just
biggest
dog shit.
takeaway from watching this movie is our standards for superhero movies have plummeted.
Yeah.
That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Because when this movie came out, it was, in comparison to other superhero movies that had come out previously, considered dog shit, right?
It was garbage, yeah.
People were like, this movie sucks. We were all like, wow, this is so much worse than Spider-Man 1 and 2 and X-Men 2 and Batman Begins right at the time, right? That now, because you've had such an oversaturation of the market, you've had 20+ Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, you've had the DCEU. Because there's so many more, because it's so oversaturated, I think our expectations of what
Our super movie standards have dropped.
Yeah, I think that it's become a standard, right? And that standard has come down. While superhero movies used to be an event, right? There used to be maybe 1 or 2 a year. They used to be special. Now it's just like,
You get 5 a year.
oh, cool.
Well, we used to at least.
Cool. Let's go see
Before the plague.
Ant-Man 3.5. You know? Let's go see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many. And also, by the way, the problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is there's one producer that oversees them, so they all look and feel and are formulaically the same, which just creates more of an issue, right?
Yeah.
They feel the same, they look the same, they are the same, if you really break it down.
Which is insane too, because when you based on what Arjuna is saying, it's like, you've had 10 years of Marvel, and it's hard to kind of like figure out what piece goes where. While with this movie, with Spider-Man 3, we know this movie so well, even though we've seen it. This is maybe my 3rd time watching it.
It's my 2nd.
In 13 years, but the scenes stick out so.
They're iconic.
They're very iconic when you compare it to, like, tell me something that happened in Thor 2. Just one thing. Anything.
Dark Elves, right? Dark Elves?
Sure. What did?
I don't remember.
Explain the
You're
scene.
asking too much.
Explain the
Christopher
scene.
Eccleston
He was in that?
Yes.
was the bad guy.
Wait.
That's all I know.
That's how
the Doctor Who?
Yeah.
the Doctor Who.
I mean, but
The good one.
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? There's so many of these movies. They're so, cinema in general is so fast cut. Everything. Do you guys remember when the Bourne movies used to come out and people used to complain how fast those cuts were? Take a Marvel movie and see how fast those cuts are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How, breakneck, neck-breaking speed is those movies and how fast they move and stuff. And even when we were watching it, everyone's like, wow, this movie's kind of slow. And it's like, it really actually isn't that slow. We expect specifically with more, like, superhero movies, like, everything happening like that, It's fascinating.
What did you find surprising about it? Here's what I found surprising. Couple things. One, Peter Parker is a dick. Why is that surprising? Because heroes in today's superhero movies are good people. They have like certain flaws, right? Like Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man excellently. No one's going to argue that. And yeah, he has these like dilemmas but Tobey Maguire is legitimately a chauvinist. He's a dick. He like the only thing he probably isn't in this movie is racist. Everything else he probably touches on, he hits, right?
Yeah,
and it's bad.
yeah, that's true.
And to me, that is fascinating, and I liked it. I liked it.
Our superheroes in today's world, like their mistakes or their flaws, are just like your unfortunate coincidences.
I
you know what I mean?
care too much.
Yeah, exactly. They're unfortunate.
I told a super wet.
You could, at worst, they're unfortunate coincidences where, like, oh, I was late for the dance party and I stood you up on the date because I was saving the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? While, yeah, you're right. Peter Parker does horrible things before he
Tobey
even
Maguire.
gets the Venom suit in front of his girlfriend, who he's going to propose to the very next day. He makes out with another person in front of everyone.
With their signature
and does the signature kiss, and then still thinks in his mind, this is pre-Venom suit, right?
Yeah.
This is just Peter Parker, his own mind.
Yeah.
Thinks
it's good.
he's going to propose to Mary Jane, and everything will be A-OK.
He's like, in that point, he's like, it's show business, baby.
Yeah, it's like what the fuck?
It's wonderful. Here's another thing I was surprised by. I remember watching this movie the first time 13 years ago, being like, Topher Grace was the absolute worst choice to be Eddie Brock. Watching it 13 years later,
He's great.
they could not have nailed it. They could not have
It's
done
like
a better casting job.
It's like Topher Grace. Like I say this about like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. Like they were born to play certain. Topher Grace was born to play Eddie Brock.
This douchebag photographer. Oh,
like
man.
he's perfect for it.
Yeah. It's
He's
so
and
great.
he's so weird. And having the chance to, I've watched all of that '70s show, and I did not really watch a lot of Topher Grace stuff, and obviously that's the quintessential like Topher Grace thing. He basically plays that character from that '70s show in this, where he's got like that weird quirkiness, that weirdness about him.
He's a perfect foil to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yep.
It was great. That brings me to my next point.
Sandman.
Sandman. Wait, I was gonna go to James Franco first, but we'll end on James Franco. Sandman. Sandman might have been the best part of the movie. Here's why. He has a real motivation that is believable, and you feel for him. I felt more for Sandman, or I was more on Sandman's side than I was at Peter Parker's side at any point during the movie. Right? So to me, that means they did a good. I think they did a good job with Sandman.
Okay, so
Revisionist history.
real quick,
Yes.
right?
Kind of.
Obviously, Spider-Man. You know, this is pre-MCU days.
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Biggest criticism is villains, right?
Yes.
Where would you put Sandman versus some of the quote-unquote best MCU villains, right? That being Loki, Killmonger, Thanos. I guess some would say is a good villain, though others would argue he's not a good villain.
I mean, I would still put Killmonger and Loki ahead of Sandman, but I don't know if there are too many other Marvel Cinematic Universe
Here's a question:
villains.
Can you name another villain in the MCU?
I was hoping you wouldn't go
The
here.
guy from Civil War.
Whiplash. He's definitely better than Whiplash. Whiplash.
Oh yeah,
is
Whiplash
horrible.
is shit.
Who's another one?
The guy from Civil War.
Actually,
Zemo.
Yes, Zemo. There we go.
Birdman Vultures.
Birdman.
He was
Vulture.
pretty. He was good.
He's good
He was
too.
good. He was good. Yeah.
That's about it. That's all I can remember right now.
It's tough. It's tough.
So what were you gonna say about the Green Goblin?
James
Junior.
Franco. Has there ever been, since earlier in the show when we said Topher Grace was a perfect choice, has there ever been a better casting choice for James Franco as Harry Osborn? And Willem Dafoe playing his father. I think that is,
I think the William.
hands down, best father-son casting ever done.
I don't know about that. I think William Dafoe being the father, perfect choice. But
Yeah.
James Franco,
Yeah. As Harry Osborn?
I don't know.
In Tobey Maguire's
I think
Spider-Man.
in Spider-Man 3 it kind of makes sense. But like,
Yeah.
remember like Spider-Man 1 and 2 with him.
He
See,
slaps
I don't know.
Peter
I'm
Parker.
gonna disagree. I actually
know.
think James Franco is better in like Spider-Man 1 and really good in Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3,
Yeah.
I actually thought he was the weakest part of the movie.
easily.
Rewatching it,
I still
Because,
loved it, but yeah.
I thought he was the weakest part just because they did the whole stupid amnesia thing in the movie where he just forgets, and he's like, la 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 la, I'm James Franco, I'm a happy man, and then he's like, now I'm evil again, I must kill Peter Parker.
But doesn't that feel like such a comic book arc? Like in comic books,
Yeah.
the superhero comics are always way over dramatic, always.
Sure.
And that's what I really was able to appreciate in this movie. This movie to me feels more like a comic book, more more so than a lot of like regular MCU movies. MCU movies, they feel like big action blockbusters with some sci-fi and stuff. This feels like a comic book movie, like a comic book put on screen. Kind of like a la Watchmen.
Yeah.
Like the same idea where it's long, they take their time, and it's over dramatic.
So one of the biggest things that came out about this movie after the fact, after Spider-Man 4 was scrapped and they moved on to the Mark Webb movies and then obviously the MCU Tom Holland movies, was Sam Raimi and the disagreements that he had with Sony, and then also the producer of all of his movies, Avi Arad. Essentially, there were 3 separate visions, and you see that in the movie. There's 3 separate villains, and then it doesn't necessarily mesh together. And we were kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, who wanted which villain? And it probably makes sense, if you think about it, that Sam Raimi wanted the Harry Osborn arc, because he set those up in his first 2 movies.
Right.
Avi Arad probably wanted the Sandman arc, just because it had an emotional and it had an interesting parallel to Peter, especially what they try to do with this movie.
With the uncle.
And then Sony, being Sony,
wanted Venom.
Yeah, they wanted to do a franchise.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's in Venom is in all the marketing. He doesn't get the suit till like an hour and a half in, has it for 15 minutes, and then
loses the suit.
Yeah.
And then you get Monster Venom.
Yeah.
With the teeth. And Topher
Grace. But you know what's interesting watching the movie, right? Because I remember specifically coming out of the theater, I'm like, wow, they really rushed the whole Venom thing, right? And I was like, wow, this is stupid, like Venom was all, he had the suit only like not till an hour in, and only had it for 20 minutes, and like Venom did it. But now in comparison to other like movies, I'm like, wow, they spent a good amount, like in comparison, right? They spent a good amount of time with the Venom suit in terms of what you get with like MCU movies and how much time they actually spend with certain elements. I'm like, that's crazy that now we've been conditioned to be like, oh, we're okay with 10 minutes of one element in a 2-hour, take Endgame, for example, right? The most overstuffed comic book movie in history. Which now if you think about it, if something like Endgame came out in 2007, it would have been critically panned, like Spider-Man 3, because it would have considered overstuffed and having too many elements and too much going on. But the genius of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they gave you so many versions of the same movie, they conditioned you to just like that one product.
Are you aware that Disney has labs in the Mojave Desert filled with individuals watching various... I'm just fucking...
Wait, that sounds real. That sounds real.
They have massive screens and people that are glued to seats, and they have to watch these movies over and over.
No, that's a real thing. It's called the Cinema Drone Farms.
Oh my God, no, it's not real.
No, Amazon is taking JC... No, I'm just joking.
So overall, I would say, did it age well?
I think it has aged well, because it's almost like it's like nostalgia. It's like, oh man, this is what a superhero movie used to be like. To me, what happened with this movie is it was bad, it got worse, and it's still really bad, but there's elements of it that I enjoy thoroughly. Like the campiness, the corniness, the over-the-top, over-dramatic situations. Emo Peter Parker. Incredible. So did it age well? Yeah, I'm going to say it did.
I also miss film, honestly. Just like watching a movie that was shot on film with grain, I'm like, everything's too sleek and digital these days. Like, bring back some film.
Why don't we start shooting this podcast on film?
We should.
God.
Wait, how? How would you stream it? Can you stream film?
You can't stream film, Christian.
Unless you are... No, you can't.
I think the story is interesting. I think the story has aged okay. Some parts of it, anyway. I think the CGI is just dog shit. It just did not hold up, unfortunately. But I also wonder, like, in 10, 15 years when we go back and we're like, oh, let's watch an Endgame, are we going to be like, this didn't hold up either?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's the problem with digital, too, right? Now that things are shot in digital, they're not going to age very well at all. In fact, they're going to probably age more poorly, I would say. Just because with digital, it's all about resolution and sleekness and stuff. And as resolution keeps going up and up and up, when you look back at the older stuff, you're like, wow, that sucks, right? Like, as your eyes get more adjusted to higher frame rates and more pixels and all that type of stuff, anything that's lower than that, you're like, wow, this is dog shit. That's like why you can't watch 1080p anymore, right? Because you're so used to 4K, where you're like, wow, this looks horrible. So it's only going to get worse. Like, I am fascinated in 5 years, going back and watching Endgame. I mean, Force Awakens came out 5 years ago. I'd be curious to go back and watch Force Awakens today to see does the CGI aspect of it
That does.
hold
I
up?
actually rewatched that maybe a month and a
months
half
ago,
ago, and it holds up.
Right.
In terms of like the visual, the digital visual components. But like
Star Wars also uses more practical effects.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean especially these ones. I mean when you look back at the original, like the prequels, for example, which are like clusterfucks of CGI and everything. Like there are definitely portions of it where like Jar Jar looks goofy and doesn't make sense, but he's goofy in general. So.
Why are you clicking?
I'm sorry. Some things are happening, and I just Are we gonna ask the age-old question?
Yes. Krishna, can you get me some milk?
No, you're lactose intolerant.
Krishna, was Spider-Man 3 good?
I want to say yes. I really do, but it's still a no. I
Okay.
really want to say yes, but yeah. Arjuna, was Spider-Man 3 good?
I'm actually going to say yes. And
Wow.
the reason I'm going to say
you
yes,
have the balls to do what I couldn't
the reason
do.
I'm going to say yes is because I think we have all collectively said yes to current superhero movies that in almost every category are worse than Spider-Man 3.
Wow.
And I think because that expectation has gone down, these older movies are kind of retroactively better.
And it's like a fine bad.
what?
It's like a fine bad wine.
Exactly.
It gets better with age.
So a bad wine that starts off bad but might get slightly better after 13 years?
Here's a fun fact: if you open a bottle of wine, it's never going to get better if you leave it. It's going to go bad.
Correct.
Right.
So you have to leave it closed.
Exactly. But you would not know then if that wine is good or bad.
Interesting.
So
Wait,
it's
so
more
you're
like
saying
it's more like that cat, I think.
But yeah, I regardless of this cat analogy, I do think it's not a perfect movie, but I do actually
No, God,
think
no.
I do think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting with Peter Parker. I still think Tobey Maguire is the best cinematic Peter Parker because I think he captures at least what I interpret Peter Parker to be, a very flawed protagonist. While the Andrew Garfield and the Tom Holland version, to me, they haven't shown they're too perfect. They're way too perfect. They're too cool as Peter Parker. They're too perfect as Spider-Mans. And I think Spider-Man 3 and the whole Spider-Man trilogy did a good job.
I agree. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is infinitely more interesting than the other two.
And more memorable. Like, you
Yeah.
just remember the stuff more because of
Yeah.
how everything is presented. And maybe it is part nostalgia, but
Yeah.
I do think it is. It's not a perfect movie. It's not even a great movie, but I think it is a good movie.
Yeah.
Ravi, was Spider-Man 3 good?
Check the outline. I already put my answer in.
You put yes.
I put
Wait,
no.
what? Oh. I was like, are you
No.
serious?
No.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The story's still all over the place.
It's still too long.
The fact that I look at the movie and I'm like, Peter Parker is a jackass, and like I didn't even really realize that when I first watched it, which maybe is a fault of my own, but like that in itself kind of just makes it a more terrible film. So, yeah. Oh well, we tried. Speaking about terrible things, Rush Hour 2.
Yeah. Wait, what? That's not terrible. Rush Hour 2 is a classic. How dare you?
Would you say Rush Hour 2 is better than Rush Hour?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
I would not say that.
I wouldn't either. Even after watching it, like it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's a good sequel, but I think the original Rush Hour, especially because the characters don't know each other, they get to know each other. There's a beauty in that, and it's so hard for there to be a
poetic.
It's so hard for a sequel of a comedy to be better than the original, and Rush Hour 2 definitely is one of the better comedy sequels out there.
Yeah.
But I still think the original Rush Hour is infinitely more memorable and more quotable and
Yeah.
just a better movie too.
So
because
speaking with Rush Hour 2, so obviously we decided to throw on another classic film because, why not? It's Sunday. What else are you going to do in quarantine land? And an interesting thing popped up. Now, we watched Rush Hour via Hulu.
Yeah.
Hulu has a deal with USA or US, whatever.
So USA or TNT or whatever.
One of those distribution points. They have a deal. And before the movie starts and after the movie comes back from every commercial break, because we have commercials in Hulu because Krishna loves commercials. Advertisers, if you're listening, Krishna will watch ads for
He
you.
will pay extra
You can pay me for
for
that,
the
too.
ads.
He
Like,
loves
in
them.
fact, if you up his price, right, and the lower ones for ads, and then the higher ones or the lower one's no ads, and the higher one is ads, Christian will actually pay more for the ads.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a lie.
He says, and this is a direct quote, that's how he gets his news and his information and what products for him to buy now.
He's also really big into Facebook ads too. So
I don't have faith.
if there's any political group listening,
Wow.
he's who you should.
I can be bought.
He can be bought easily.
Yeah, I can be bought.
But before the movie actually started, and when we came back from commercial breaks, there was an offensive tag notice at the beginning of the film, and we're paraphrasing here, but it was basically along the lines of, "We love our 90s buddy cop comedies or our buddy comedies, but some of the material that is mentioned or portrayed in this, is outdated." And doesn't obviously adhere to current standards, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing, but it's essentially what they were saying. What we grew up watching Rush Hour. It was very inspirational to our professional and personal careers, I would say. Was that shocking to you guys? Like, when you look back at that movie, and even after watching the movie last night through the lens of this tag, do you think that it's warranted? What do you think?
Yes, it's definitely warranted. I think collectively we've come a long way in terms of at least what we're aware of that can be offensive.
Yeah.
But so the tag makes sense. It didn't lessen my enjoyment of the movie not one bit. But I'm glad that they included it because it's like, laugh, but be aware why this isn't something you should repeat, perhaps, outside of the scope of watching this movie. I appreciate that because people are out there, unfortunately, are dumb enough to be like, if it's in the movie, it's okay to say in real life. Or because they do this in the movie, this attitude is correct, therefore I'm allowed to be a racist piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true, right? Enjoy the movie, laugh, but just be aware that behavior in the movie that could be problematic, don't emulate it.
Right.
Realize why you're laughing. That way you can keep.
I found myself laughing because of how bad it was in terms of some of the stuff was, and it's like I'm laughing at like how you could even think or say something like that. So that was the humor to me almost. It's like, wow, this is you can't say this.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
a lot of the humor is low hanging fruit.
Exactly right. And you're like, well, you couldn't get away with this today. But it didn't shock me that it's there. I think it is needed in today's world because, like Christian said, people are stupid and will be like, yeah, it's in the movie, so it is okay. So I'm glad they did that. It is interesting watching it so many years later because you obviously don't realize at the time as expectations and realities change in terms of, this is okay. I've been watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and there's one part where Carlton says outright, that's retarded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's
and you're just like, whoa,
and they just
whoa,
no one says
whoa.
anything. It's just fine. I think it's said again at one point too, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, because at the time, everybody said it, and that was okay. But then it is, it's almost like it's a peek at of things can change and you can be hopeful because it's like that was okay and it wasn't a controversy at all back then. Like people just said it and people were fine with it. You can't do that today, and I think that is good progress. You shouldn't be able to say that on a show or on a movie, right? Because it is offensive and it is bad. And so it's like, well, things can change. So, Ravi?
I agree with everything you're saying.
But you hated the tag.
I think the tag, what I hated about it, honestly, is the fact that every single time you came back from commercial break, it was there.
Yeah. You only need it at the beginning of the movie.
And
I agree with
and mostly because, you're wasting my time and want to get back to the fucking movie. I get it. I can read the first tag. I understand.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's also interesting, we didn't obviously watch Rush Hour 3. I would be kind of curious to see, does Rush Hour 3 have a similar tag? I mean, if Rush Hour 2 has a tag like that, Rush Hour 1 definitely has a fucking tag like that.
Yeah.
But Rush Hour 3, even looking back at that film, it was definitely not as they didn't poke the bear as much in Rush Hour 3 when kind of comparing different cultures and everything. So, do we still have hopes that a Rush Hour 4 happens? Do we need it?
I don't think we need it. The movie, watching Rush Hour 2, I think is a great example. The movies are sort of like relics of a bygone era, right? If you get Rush Hour 4, like you just said, they can't make the same jokes.
Right.
They're older.
Unless you lean into that, right? Unless you completely lean into...
You have to go all out,
if you
which is fine.
If you lean into the idea of here are these two old cops from a bygone era living in 2020, right?
And they're kind of racist. And
they're off the book. They don't do things correctly.
This sounds like it's bad taco.
Yeah, it does, right? But if you lean into that and you can find a good story and you can still kind of be fun, like you can kind of have fun with that humor of, you know, of today's society. I think that really has to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think you could have an interesting movie. I think it could be fun because, I mean, the key to those movies is the chemistry between Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker.
100%.
And that's still there, right?
Maybe. They might have had a falling out.
Yeah,
We don't know.
You never know, I guess.
When did Rush Hour 3 come out?
2007, the same year as Spider-Man 3.
So it's been 13
Some
years
classics.
since they've done
A movie together.
So yeah, and a lot has changed in that time period. I mean, look at who the director of 1, 2, and 3 is, and
Right. It
Who
would
is
be
it?
a different director.
Brett
Ratner.
Ratner.
Brett Rader?
Ratner. Wow. The
I didn't know we knew the director of Rush Hour.
nope, Krishna. We'll just keep pushing through that one.
Is there some stuff around
Yep.
this director that I don't know
Brett
about?
Ratner. He's one of the bad ones.
Really?
We're trying to cancel him, but unfortunately, Hollywood's protecting him.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
See? Didn't know that. There's so many of them.
I mean, it's no fault of your own. Like, you're right. There is so many of them.
Yeah.
It's a disgusting and huge problem in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We already agree that it's not better than 1. Whoever says things like that is crazy.
I feel like that's a targeted
Targeted ad.
We do not do targeted ads here. We do problematic ads.
Oh.
Programmatic ads. I mean, ads. Anyway. Somebody asked me first. I keep asking
All right,
first.
all right. Ravi, was Rush Hour
No,
2
don't do me first. Don't do me first.
Was it good?
Was Rush Hour 2 good?
Yes, it was great.
Wow.
Oh, great.
Great.
Wow.
Yes, I'm starting a new podcast.
Wow.
Was it good? Great.
Oh, here's a follow-up question. In terms of comedy sequels, is it the best comedy sequel that you have seen?
I can't think of any other comedy sequels right now.
Anchorman 2.
Yeah, it's better than that garbage.
Daddy's Home 2.
That's just stupid.
Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2 is oof.
Home Alone
2 is
really
really
good.
Home Alone 2 is really
It's better than the first one.
Way
in my
better than
opinion.
the first one.
Yeah.
I might be the only one. The only other one I can think of.
I don't know. The genres crossover too, because it's a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like a subgenre of comedy, right?
Ride Along 2.
Is that a what?
That was with
That's a buddy
really?
cop.
That's with Ice Cube and Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Is that good? What's the first? I haven't seen either.
No, it's
Oh.
not that good.
Oh, okay.
It's just it's Kevin Hart screaming
22 Jump
and Ice
Street?
Cube just being angry.
22 Jump Street's a pretty good sequel. It's not great. It's not perfect, but
No.
it's actually better than the first time I remember. You guys should rewatch it.
Christian, was Rush Hour 2 good?
Yes, it was good. Even though I fell asleep during it. Arjuna, was Rush Hour 2 good?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
I enjoyed the Las Vegas scenes, and I will be going to the Red Dragon.
It doesn't exist, you silly.
Oh,
What? How did they make that sign?
They hired some neon light maker. They were like, "Hey, can you make this red dragon sign?" Sure, it's generic enough. Speaking of dragons and red ones, Mulan, not the
new one.
the new one that hasn't come out yet. That's coming out later on Disney Plus for $3,000. No, $30, I think. We decided to rewatch. Christian and I decided to rewatch the cartoon version of Mulan. Because, it's Saturday and there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, and also when you've had a few drinks, I mean, Mulan looks great.
You guys are the two saddest 30-year-olds I've ever met. Oh.
I'm 32.
Yeah, you're in your 30s, 30-year-olds.
Tuna, we are so exciting. There's a pandemic.
You
What do you want us to do?
You spent a Saturday night
Watching Mulan.
watching Mulan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
A
sounds
30-year-old man
that
and a
sounds part-
32-year-old man watch a Disney princess movie.
Hold on.
Okay.
But hold on.
Mulan
Just
is
think about the
badass.
optics on it.
Hold on,
Badass.
real quick. We were singing along, too.
Wait, were you actually?
Yeah. let's get down to business. Great fucking song.
I want to hear how off key that was if you were both singing along.
I will not confirm if the police were or were not called on us for noise complaints.
For there being a dead dog dying at our apartment.
Now, Mulan, I think, is interesting because it does follow the old school 1990s, early 2000 Disney formula of like sing-alongs and princesses and that type of stuff. And Mulan, I love because it's a story about this female individual going to war, and then there's an actual war, and like there's battle, and there's like there's like cool shit happening that like anyone can be interested in. And it's also got killer music too.
Oh God,
which is amazing.
Soundtrack's incredible. And it's not just the sing-along parts. Like some of the actual music, has like there's like one part when she's like getting into her father's armor, and it's like almost techno.
Christian,
like this like electronic like beat. And you're just tear up?
Did you cry?
No, you don't cry the 100th time you've seen a movie.
He cried.
I did not cry.
It's also a fun fact, for our listeners. This is the first movie the three of us actually saw in the United States.
Yeah.
When we first came to the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of like, it's the first U.S. film we saw in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's one of my first memories.
Seeing Mulan?
Yeah. I mean, I obviously have memories of England, but like especially of like the United States and moving here, like being so young and moving here, it like sticks out in my mind because it's almost like in my 5-year-old brain, we moved here and then we went straight to go see Mulan.
That's weird.
That's exactly what happened.
That's our parents' priorities right
plane.
there. They're like, get off the plane. All right, let's go see Mulan.
Yeah.
That's why we were late.
Yeah.
We got held up.
Customs.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Mulan, great film. Eddie Murphy kills it, obviously.
Oh my God,
like
so good.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful voice actor right there.
Mushu.
Mushu. Looking ahead, we know that the new Mulan film is coming out. Some people actually suggested, maybe we could get a couple of people to like pool in, so you're not just individually spending $30 and just kind of give out our login information for Disney Plus. Just an idea that I'm throwing out there to the internet. So that's a possibility. Knowing what we know about this new Mulan, there's no music. There's no Mushu.
There's no Lucky Cricket.
There's no Lucky Cricket.
There's no Zhang.
There's no Zhang. There's no ancestor component, which I think it's a huge and important thing to this because that's culturally that was a thing. Like I don't understand why we're not touching upon that. And then more importantly, what the lead actress said.
Yeah.
About Hong Kong.
Yeah.
The movie, and then obviously with this whole movie is like then COVID happened. It's been pushed back like crazy. Is anyone here going to make the effort to see Mulan?
Not for $30 fucking.
I mean,
it needs to be a free movie.
Well, okay, worst case scenario, right? The three of us are the only three that watch it. Split 3 ways is $10. Right?
I would not. Even that is too. They're cutting all the good stuff.
Arjuna, real
we
quick.
have
Arjuna,
parents,
hold on.
so it's free.
That's true. We have parents.
Then I'm
free.
in.
Yeah.
It needs to be free.
Yeah. So wait, if we split with our parents, then it's $6 each.
Yeah.
But then you have to remember that's like the price of a McFish.
Fish fillet?
A fish fillet.
A McFish. I like
A
that.
McFish.
I want a McFish, a.k.a.
You
fish
should
fillet.
copyright that before they take it from you.
They probably own that somewhere at some point.
Probably. I mean, I'll probably watch it for this podcast. It's going to be a new piece of content.
I'll watch it just to rip it a new one.
And yeah, but I do have my expectation. I don't think I've ever had lower expectations for a movie, and this is
Really?
obviously we've watched many Star Wars movies over the last few years. We've seen the destruction of the Star Trek franchise. Yeah, I honestly my expectations are so low because it's
Netflix movies have come out that have been fucking god awful.
Yeah, no, because they literally took everything great about the movie. They went into a boardroom, right? They're like, okay, we're doing a live-action remake of Mulan. People have been complaining we're just doing the same thing. So it's like, how can we make Mulan different, right? So somebody wrote all the best parts of Mulan. They're like, okay, let's take it all out.
Yeah, it's completely different now.
And now it's a different movie. And it's a different interpretation of the thing. I'm like, why? Why would you remove all of these elements? But we'll see. That's the we'll see how it goes. It's No expectations. It'll probably be terrible. I'll watch it. I'll probably cry because it's so painful.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch the animated one and feel happy again.
I'm glad that we saw the animated one recently because I believe this is slated to come out in
September. Next month.
Next month. So it'll be. I'm curious to see what we'll get from this. I'm happy that Arjuna is offered. It sounds like to pay for the whole $30.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So
yeah, and but by pay for it, he's just gonna ask.
well,
me
actually, it's your girlfriend's Disney Plus account that's connected. So
Thanks, Sahara.
what I'm hearing is I don't have to pay for this movie. Hey, and Disney, if you're listening, I didn't have to pay for your movie.
This is a children's movie.
Krishna, was Mulan the animated movie good?
Yeah, seems like we
No-brainer.
don't even have to ask, but yeah,
it was great.
It's
film.
not just great; it's incredible. I forgot how good the movie is from start to finish.
Okay, in terms of animated Disney movies, right? This is always the topic of discussion. Like, what's the best animated Disney movie?
Lion King.
So you still say Lion King won?
No,
But
Atlantis.
Ugh.
The Atlantis one? That
no,
one's a good one. And then the
Atlantis
other
is
one
terrible.
in the future
Ugh.
where the planet's gone and the
Land
kid
Before
has
Time?
the kid has the ring
Lord of the Rings.
and he has to find a
Never.
Titan Titan Titan
Titan
AE.
AD.
Yeah.
Or AE or
Yeah,
something?
that's the one. Titan AE.
Interesting. But where would you guys
Iron
rank?
Giant's pretty good.
But where would you guys rank this?
Second.
You put it second.
Yeah.
This is like third or fourth.
Lion King, Mulan.
Lion King?
Yeah, Lion King is incredible.
Well, it's all right.
Lion King is the first movie I ever cried to, and
You
the last.
cried over Lion King?
And it's the last.
What
Not
part?
the Hunchback of Notre
When
Dame.
Scar
I
died?
didn't cry over Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I just
Dumb.
cried because I felt bad for him.
I didn't cry.
I cried because he was so hidious. No, I'm just joking.
Oh,
She was too ugly.
You know why they don't like you?
You want to know why your boyfriend broke up with you? Because you ugly.
You ugly hunchback. No, I'm just kidding.
So speaking of ugly things,
Oh God.
Mike Tyson decided to fight a shark.
Did he actually fight a shark? I haven't seen the footage yet.
So it's Shark Week on Discovery Channel. Discovery Channel each year likes to do a week-long celebration of some of the deadliest creatures in the world, sharks. And to kind of kick off the event kicked off yesterday on Sunday. Mike Tyson, heavyweight boxing champion of the world, went in and supposedly beat the crap out of a shark.
Nice.
And, I thought Twitter would have got some trending. Didn't get any kind of trending love.
Yeah, it's weird.
From what I understand, it was like 2 or 3 minutes, and that was about it. So for a big event, it kind of fell flat on its face, unfortunately. Hopefully Tyson's actual fight coming up in September will be a little bit more interesting.
This was his tune-up.
Wow.
Tune?
His
tuna?
tune-up.
Tuna? Wow. Don't quit your day
Anyway,
job.
so in celebration of Shark Week, I'd like to hear your favorite shark
Ooh, can I go last?
related films.
Can I go last?
And I'll go first.
Okay.
Actually, no, you go first, Christian. You're the eldest.
Honestly, I didn't see this question until right before the podcast. So mine's boring. It's going to be traditional. It's going to be what most people pick, I think. It's going to be Jaws. Jaws is great. Jaws is a legitimately scary movie. And the shark appears very late. It's barely even in the movie. But the idea around the shark terrifies this town. And it's a great... Jaws is a great lesson in building tension in a movie. In fact, it's probably the prime example of how to build tension without having to
show anything.
Yeah, you just good writing, good acting, pacing, camera angles and stuff, whatever, all that jazz you guys
Some
like.
argue it's Steven Spielberg's masterpiece. It's his best movie.
Hands down.
This is what some
No,
say.
his masterpiece is J.J. Abrams. Because
What?
without Spielberg,
Oh, God.
J.J. wouldn't have been able to fuck up everything.
What?
Hey, don't you talk about Julian's future son that way.
Wow. So yeah, Jaws. Jaws is great.
Ravi?
So I went somewhere a little bit different with this. Sharks are cool.
It's episode 3 of Star Wars.
No, it's not episode 3 of Star Wars. My favorite shark-related piece of content out there has to be the king of all monsters, Godzilla.
There's no shark in it.
He is like a shark.
No, he isn't.
He eats flesh.
He's an underwater
He
dragon.
goes underwater. He bites things. He goes, "Rawr!" He's a shark.
He has a fin, I guess.
He has a fin.
no fins.
And also, there's a reference, I'm sure, in one of the many hundreds of movies out there where they're like, oh, he's related to the sharks. I'm paraphrasing that.
Are sharks dinosaurs?
Sure.
Because then I want to change mine to Jurassic Park. If they're not dinosaurs.
No, isn't it alligators or crocodiles that
Yeah,
are related
I
to
think- I'm
dinosaurs?
pretty sure
One
you're
of
right,
those,
yeah.
not both.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How is one but not both related to dinosaurs?
Well, they're
I don't
different
know.
species.
They're different.
Aren't they related
No.
in the genus or the phylum section of
Don't
their
get all 7th grade biology on us.
biology? That's,
I guess that is
biology.
Arjuna, what's yours gonna be?
All right, I really have to dig deep in terms of what my favorite shark-related
Baby
movie
Shark.
is.
Is it Mr. Crab's daughter?
No,
Wait, she's a shark.
she's a whale.
Oh, sure, it's
Oh.
a hammerhead. A hammerhead whale, right?
No, but I really dug deep and I was like, there was this 2004 movie that came out,
Meg.
which maybe featured the greatest voice cast of all time, and I'm talking about Will Smith's Shark Tale.
I never watched it.
I don't remember it at all, actually.
Well, let me just tell you the voice cast of this movie.
I don't care about the voice cast. What was the story about?
Will Smith,
Okay.
Robert De Niro, Jack Black,
Huh.
Angelina Jolie,
Wow.
Martin Scorsese, Katie Couric, the news reporter, formerly who worked for Yahoo.
What?
That's it.
That's a very
Wait, what you said? You said it was the greatest.
It's a great voice cast.
That is
great
not a
voice
great
cast.
That's just random. It's a
yeah,
random voice cast.
Shark Tales, it came out right around Finding Nemo, and Finding Nemo was more successful. With the
Is it the
animated
same
fish.
ideas as Finding Nemo?
No,
Same
it's,
universe?
It's different because it's about a shark.
What? No, that's not what we're asking. Is it the same universe?
Uh,
Is it the same shark?
no.
But like, is the story the same? Like, is someone lost and has to find their way home?
No.
So then, what was the point of it?
It was Will Smith. And
Is there
sharks.
is there singing? Are there music takes?
there's a soundtrack. And
This is the worst review of
Yeah,
a movie
you're not selling
fucking
this.
ever.
and Will Smith is sang one of the songs. He's featured in one of the songs. On the
Arjuna, did you
soundtrack.
before the start of this podcast type in shark movies of the last 20 years?
No, I asked my girlfriend Sahara what I should put for my shark movie, and she said Shark Tale.
So
And
have
I
you
thought
seen
it? Was
it?
Genius. I did a long time ago.
But you can't tell me what the prep. Like, give me a synopsis.
It wasn't a good movie, okay?
How much money did it make in the box office? Let's go off of that.
Oh, it made
No.
$367.3 million.
Jesus. Okay.
Good movie. Off a $75 million budget.
It's not
It
bad.
only has a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, that's dog shit.
And it had Will Smith. So it's obviously a good movie. Will Smith only chooses good movies like The Wild Wild West after
Oh my
this
god.
one. The Suicide
Suicide Squad. So that's our 3 favorite shark movies to celebrate Shark Week. Krishna has Jaws classic. I have Godzilla because I don't follow direction, and Arjuna has Shark Tale because someone told him to pick that.
Thanks.
That sums up Shark Week pretty nicely. I
That's
think.
Shark Week.
That
for
is
ya.
Shark Week in a shark.
Are we ready for the big reveal, Arjuna?
Maybe we go through some of these news bullets because I
Actually,
forgot to.
if we're gonna was it news, I have something to break here on the podcast. Shia LaBeouf
yes.
is reportedly being eyed for the Iceman role in the MCU.
It's not
This
breaking. That
is-
broke this morning.
Well, why isn't it? And was it news?
I didn't see it honestly.
Oh well, I broke it to Arjuna. Boom, roasted. Why didn't you put it in?
We do have Iceman related news though. In
Ish.
our wasn't news.
We do.
If our host read
Well,
through, he could easily.
What do we?
tie
What
it
do
in.
we think about Shia LaBeouf being Iceman? I think it's perfect. It's a perfect choice. It's up there with James Franco as Harry Osborn. It's up there with Topher Grace.
I
as
just feel like
Venom.
that's a waste. Iceman.
Waste.
Iceman is a pretty vanilla character. He's
He
you know,
is.
I wouldn't say he's super complex. At least portrayed in the comics.
Is it
and everything.
Iceman the Bobby
Yeah.
something version?
Mhm.
Didn't the character they came out recently and they made a big deal of it? It's not really that big of a deal, but they said that the character is actually gay.
Yeah, that was Iceman.
Interesting. So are they doing that version or?
Honestly, I mean, Shia LaBeouf is, he's an actor. He's a wild actor.
Yeah.
He's a Nicolas Cage type actor. You don't really know what to expect when he shows up on set.
That's
you
what
know?
I'm saying. I think it's
So-
perfect. Like I like the idea because Iceman as a bland. Why not make him kind of interesting then? I think Shia LaBeouf, he can do it. I actually am a fan of Shia LaBeouf.
Shia the Beef.
So wait, would he be doing
Shia
as like a standalone Iceman or part of the MCU?
I think
or?
it probably part of the
No,
X-Men.
it says
it seems
yeah.
like.
It says MCU.
They have to be thinking about how they're going to do the X-Men. I mean, I know there's been rumors that Black Panther 2 is going to feature Storm, as Black Panther and Storm do get married at one point in the comic books. So there's been rumors that Storm will make an appearance
Cool.
in the MCU.
That'd be great.
And mutants in general will be part of Black Panther 2. Like, that's how they're going to kind of introduce
But doesn't
them.
Chadwick Boseman want out?
There's a whole bunch of stuff there, that he's disappointed because they already want to move ahead with moving on from his character. So he wants to preemptively get in front of Disney and be like, I'm going to mess up your plans and leave earlier.
Why do they want to move on from him so quickly?
Because they want more female heroes, so they want to give Shuri, his sister, potentially the Black Panther mantle, in Black Panther 2 or Black Panther 3. And he's like, wait, I signed on for 12 movies. What? We're not going to fulfill his contract?
Great.
So we'll see.
See, I always thought
Politics.
her picking up the Iron Man mantle would be better.
I think that would be cool.
That'd be super cool because they've just recently, like within the last 5 years, there's a new Iron Man comic where there is a young female character that like falls under Tony Stark's like wing and then like kind of picks up the Iron Man mantle because she's super intelligent and also has a similar like I need the heart thingy to live. So
that was probably the most disappointing thing about Infinity War Endgame, that a lot of people, including me, were hoping like the characters of Shuri and Tony Stark were going to meet, because in terms of the MCU universe, they're probably like the two smartest people in terms of like robotics and AI and all that type of stuff. Like, they're geniuses, and it would have been nice to see them play off, much like you got like the science bro moments in Avengers 1 and 2 between
Hulk and
Bruce
Iron Man.
Banner and Tony Stark. So that was maybe disappointing.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So moving into Was It News, speaking of other Marvel properties, Captain Marvel 2 has a director.
Yes.
And this director is Nia DaCosta, who more recently directed
Candyman,
Candyman.
the movie with that's supposed to be coming out soon, the horror movie.
Candyman,
Say my name.
Candyman.
Hey, look, that movie looks horrifying. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm not gonna sleep for 3 days.
Wait, why are you gonna watch it?
He's doing it for the podcast.
Doing it for the.
Are
So
we
you have
watching
to
it?
watch it too.
I mean, horror movies aren't scary. No offense.
I hope you get horrified by this movie.
They're fake.
No, Christian, all movies are real. Everybody knows that.
It's true.
Wow.
Yes.
Only Paranormal Activity 2 is real.
Not the third one, second one, first one?
Nope.
Interesting.
Only the second one.
So that's going to be interesting. So that looks like it's still slated for some time in the distant future.
Are they making Captain Marvel 2 a horror movie then?
That would be amazing.
Yes. They should do that.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be.
What's interesting is, so Deadline reported this, and this is a little snippet from the article. DaCosta's attachment is yet another sign of Marvel continuing to add diversity to its films, especially when it comes to the individuals behind the camera. Even though a budget is unknown, it is sure to be the biggest budget tentpole to be helmed by a black female director, following in the footsteps of Ava DuVernay, who directed A Wrinkle in Time, which came in at a $115 million budget. So, once again, we're making strides in the right direction, which is always good. I'm curious to see what this looks like.
Oh, it's a horror movie.
If it is a horror movie,
Yes.
oh, I would be so happy.
Yes.
But they will never do it.
No, they won't.
Because,
Every movie has to look and feel the same.
exactly.
It's part of the initiative.
What's funny, though, well, it's not funny, but, like, the first Captain Marvel film, you can only go up from that first one. That first one was not good.
It wasn't bad. It was just blah.
Christian, I would consider Spider-Man 3 better than that film.
That's why I said Spider-Man 3 was a good movie.
Spider-Man 3 is more memorable than 90% of the MCU movies.
Do you remember? Yeah, you're
I
right.
agree with that.
Yeah, okay. So that should be interesting. Along the same lines of MCU news, China and the MCU, why Shang-Chi and the Mandarin almost debuted in the Avengers instead of a Thanos. It's a new book that comes out.
Yeah, so I was actually telling Christian about this the other day. There is a book coming out from an executive at a Chinese film company.
DNG.
I forget what the letters were, if it's that or not.
Yeah, you told me DNG.
I don't remember.
Hopefully you were right.
I don't remember the conversation. I don't even know who you are. But anyway, it talks about how in the early phase, the early stages of the MCU, Disney and Marvel were really trying to coordinate with China because they really wanted to, China to invest in the MCU and the movies. And if you actually remember, Iron Man 3 ended up being the co-production with the Chinese company. There were actually certain characters and certain shots that were put in because of the Chinese company and to kind of adhere to a Chinese audience, right? But anyway, they had this discussion years ago, and it was really in the early days of the MCU, and they essentially for the Chinese film company to own the post-credit scene of Avengers and be like, okay, what do we want to tease for your MCU movie essentially that's going to come up that's going to be for a Chinese audience and everything. And the original thing that was thrown out there was the Mandarin.
Damn.
The Mandarin was going to be the original tease for the Avengers. And then the company didn't want that because they felt like, obviously, the Mandarin's a problematic character in the comics. He's basically every single racist stereotype of Chinese people, and then he's also a bad guy, right? So they're like, well, we don't want our first tease to be like Chinese people are bad. So they decided to scrap that, and they were actually going to go with Shang-Chi, who is getting his own Marvel movie that was originally supposed to come out next year. I think that might have got pushed to 2022 now because of COVID. So they're originally actually going to tease this hero in the post-credits of Avengers. But then that eventually got scrapped, and they ended up going with Thanos later in the game, later than people actually knew, which is interesting because everyone's like, oh, the MCU was this whole planned-out thing.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't. Like, if you actually go back and you watch some of Phase 1 and stuff, and you even listen to some of the interviews with Kevin Feige, he's like, we kind of put feelers out there, right, of, like, teasing this and teasing that and, like, putting the Captain America shield in Iron Man 2, I think is when it shows up, when Tony's digging through his trash. It's like, we put that in for fun, and then we could figure out later, like, how that connected potentially. So it's just interesting when people are like, Kevin Feige had the whole Marvel thing planned out. I'm like, no, I think they just adapted and were smart enough to figure out how to make things connect and work.
Pivot.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at what Marvel and Disney have done with the MCU thus far, it's very similar to what happened with Star Wars.
Yeah.
With 4, 5, and 6. Dumb luck. Like, it was a bunch of different things that all worked and just aligned perfectly and at the right time period and just connected in such a way that you got what you got. So I don't think you can ever sit there and say, George Lucas knew exactly what he was doing from day one, and Kevin Feige, same thing. It's not how it works, unfortunately. Last couple pieces of news here. New Tron movie. This is my favorite piece of news. There's a new Tron movie coming out.
Why is this your favorite piece?
And Jared Leto is going to be
No.
in it. And
Please,
that
God,
was
no.
announced a while ago. But it looks like a director has finally kind of aligned, and this thing is actually going to happen. How excited are we?
I haven't seen any Tron movies before.
Wait, you didn't even see the new one that came out like 10 years ago or however many years ago it was?
Is it good? Are they good?
It's great. It's a really good film.
I mean, they're considered sci-fi classics, right? The original Tron is.
They look boring.
They're colorful with lights.
Oh,
They look boring. That's what
So
you
the
sound like.
director is going to be director Gareth Davis, who did Lion.
what was that?
Lion
that was
a
that movie,
2016 critically acclaimed drama.
Yeah, it starred what's that guy's name? The guy who played Zuko in the live-action Avatar, and he was also in Slumdog Millionaire.
I know who you're talking about.
I forget the actor's name. He's a British actor.
Yeah, he's a British.
Yeah, he was in that movie, and it was just about this guy finding his like true parents in
Dev
India.
Patel.
Dev Patel, that's right. It was a good movie. It was like a drama type of Oscar baity type movie.
I mean,
It's
either
fine.
way, a movie with Jared Leto, I mean, that dude is, he's crazy. We've seen him, I think, twice now in concert with 30 Seconds to Mars, and those are always hilarious shows to watch because he's running around more than he's singing. That's just funny.
Yeah.
And, like, we've heard of the insane antics that he does on set because I think he's crazy.
He's been in some classic movies, too, like Lord of War, Equilibrium.
Yep.
Yeah, and like he was actually good in those, and then he took his
Requiem for a Dream.
Yep.
and then he took his break. Oh, he was also in American Psycho.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he took his
you're right.
break, and he came back, and he was the
So fun fact.
He's
so
a better
his-
actor than
so
musician.
Fun fact about Jared Leto: when COVID started, he wasn't aware.
All right, I remember you saying
He
this.
came back to the. I don't know where the fuck he was, but he came
LSD.
back, and he was like, "Hey,
What happened?
what happened? The world? What? Like he was like 4 weeks late to the news or some crazy shit."
Oh my god.
Fight Club. He's also in Fight Club.
Yeah, Fight Club.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Damn, he was in a lot of classics.
Yeah. Young, super young in Fight Club. Like I think I watched it like last year, and I did a double take. I was like, is that fucking Jared Leto? And he's so young in that movie. It almost doesn't look.
Does he
like
sing?
him. No. Why would he sing?
Because he's the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars.
No, he fights and loses. I think he gets his head punched in.
They should do a sequel called Sing Club.
single Glee. He should be that. He should be the guy in Glee.
God, Glee.
Glee.
What a
Speaking
show.
about Glee,
What?
it doesn't relate to The Boy season 2 at all. Sean Ashmore is going to be joining the cast in season 2 as Lamplighter.
Who's that?
Lamplighter was a character that was originally replaced by.
Oh, Sean Ashmore, the original Iceman.
That's why I was saying there was a perfect transition.
Yeah, no,
I didn't
you
know who
missed.
Sean Ashmore was.
I missed
like,
it
oh,
big time.
That's
Come
Bobby.
on.
That's Mr.
The
Iceman.
original, yeah, the original Iceman. So he obviously was original Iceman. He was also in Smallville too.
That's right.
The actor for a little bit.
Nobody cares about Smallville.
Arjuna does. He's a huge CW fan.
I actually never watched Smallville.
Past and future.
You watched Smallville though.
I did watch it for a season.
Yeah, what girl got you involved in that?
Don't remember.
Because no one would willingly watch it by themselves.
So that's gonna be. So what? Season 2 is coming out actually very soon.
I think this month, if or maybe next month. Let me.
I think it's
check
September.
real.
So that'll be kind of fun. And then to wrap up all of our news here, 3 new Star Trek movies. We started
Why?
with Star Trek. We're gonna end with more Star Trek. Why not?
So
Because
it's not. So there's 3 distinct ideas in play at Paramount, and their new CEO or president or whoever's in charge of their media division or movie
The
division.
janitor. Because this news, that's what that sounds like.
oh man,
They went to the janitor and they were like, "You look like you used to watch Star Trek."
So here are the 3 versions of the movie. There was the proposed Star Trek 4, which was going to star Chris Hemsworth returning as Kirk's dad and be a time travel movie.
Yes.
There's the long-rumored Quentin Tarantino idea that's a bloody mess with the current new cast. That his idea was with the new cast.
Did he just want to kill them all?
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's the question. No one
I would
knows.
sign up for that.
Then there's Noah Hawley, who did Legion, had written a couple versions of a script, which would be a new cast, a new Star Trek, essentially. But no one knows if it'd be in the primary timeline or the Kelvin timeline or another timeline, right? If it's
Yeah,
a-
reboot essentially.
if it is a true reboot or just like it further along in the Calvin timeline, further along in the primary timeline, like what that idea is.
What the hell is Calvin timeline?
It's like the secondary timeline.
The J.J. Abrams time, basically where Spock went back in time.
He created Divergence.
He created a second
Split.
timeline. Yeah.
Judgment Day.
Yes.
I'm a cybernetic organism.
So there are basically those 3 Star Treks on the table, and Paramount is deciding what the hell. Like they're like, well, you know, our television department is moving full steam ahead. We have 100 shows right now, and we need 100 movies as well. So it will be interesting to see which direction if they go. If they go one direction, they go maybe 2, maybe they go all 3. Maybe they go none of these directions. Who knows?
I personally don't think we need a Star Trek film or franchise right now. I get why a studio would want that because it's their big tentpole events, and you know, Star Trek still pulls in an audience, right? Because it's a well-known franchise, right? And you're a hardcore fan like you, for example, you know, you may not care or a ton about the lore, but you know, if it looks interesting, there's enough couple of names, potentially you'll go see it. So obviously that's why they want to kind of push on it. But I don't know if we need a Star Trek film right now. I'm kind of having fun with what we've got. Yes, Picard is dog shit. Lower Decks has potential. Discovery's coming back. I'm actually genuinely excited to see where it goes because we're going into a future that we've never been. Like they're literally going to a galaxy far, far, far away in a future where, you know, something exists. We don't know if the Federation's around. We don't know. It's truly the unknown.
It runs into Star Wars.
It could potentially. I mean, that's not like when you go back.
That
you
is
know,
impossible.
When you go back and you look at all the Star Trek series, like that's why like Voyager, for example, stood above the rest, is because they're in a whole new quadrant and they don't know what's going on. And it's the same thing with this Discovery season 3. They're so far in the future, we don't know what's up.
Did they time travel in the future?
Yes, they jump. I think like 1,000 years or something crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
That's quite a
bunch.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was
Season
great.
2 sounds like it was a lot better than season
Season 2 was fantastic.
I've
like-
never heard you say that about a Star Trek.
I will probably and I don't usually do this. I'll probably rewatch the whole season before season 3 again, just because specifically like the actors that played Spock and Pike, they did a great job. They have like episodes where they're specific about each of those characters.
How excited are you for that spin-off show?
Very, because those two they could do it easily. Like they have the ability to kind of keep everyone's attention, so it'll be cool.
And Paramount's making that show essentially to go back to appease the older Trek fans who don't like Discovery and Picard, because those are very non-traditional Star Trek shows, while this show is going to be a very traditional Star Trek show.
Nice.
So that's going to be all of our news right there. Arjuna, are you ready
Yes.
to do this? From a post-production standpoint, you're going to have to screw this. Do you want me to keep this in the pod or?
No, we'll keep it in the pod.
Okay.
That's fine. Announce the winner live.
So, we last week gave you all the opportunity to follow us on either Instagram or Twitter and like or share the post to be entered for a chance to win Star Wars Funko Pop, The Child with Frog.
I love the title. He's eating the frog. Sucking
So
his guts
we are
out.
now going to determine the winner using a algorithm from the future. Arjuna,
Do you know how to jump?
Drum roll, please.
hold on. No.
Wow. And we have a winner.
And the winner is
Olympia Oh, God. Sarah's going to be mad at me. Terrell?
Olympia Terrell. Woo!
It's a Sahara's sister.
You should not ever say who the person is on the thing because it sounds like we rigged it. Good job, Arjuna.
We didn't. I swear we didn't.
Wait. Where do they live?
We will not be saying that on the podcast.
Well, Olympia, congratulations.
Yes.
You have this Funko Pop coming to you at some point. And that's going to wrap us up here.
That's the longest episode we've ever done.
That is the longest episode we've ever
hour
done.
and a half.
I have to do something so badly. Anyway, be sure every Monday we do this podcast live on twitch.tv/wasitgood. You can always find us on Twitter at wasitgood and on Instagram at wasitgoodbtm. That's all I've got to say. I'm done talking. Goodbye.
Farewell. Goodbye.